I'll just cut out this part where I forgot what I was going to say. Hello, everyone. This is the Pocket Passer. I'm your host, Randy White. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. I know I am because I am joined by Blue52 Football to talk about this year's end of season awards. Let's get into the video. All right, so this is Blue52 Football on my left, and we are going to be talking about Offensive Rookie of the Year to start off these rookie awards. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take this to start us off.
Yeah, so for Offensive Rookie of the Year, as we talked about a little bit before this, but it kind of shifted a few different times between a few different players. My number one pick, and I know we have a few picks for each category here, so if you want, we'll just do one pick, and then you go, and then I go for that category. My
That works for
number
me.
one pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year is Brock Bowers. I mean, it's going to be tough taking the award away from a quarterback because that's typically how it goes most seasons, but we're looking at history in the making with this guy. People knew that this is the caliber of player he could be. I know there were a lot of questions about him, and from the Raiders' perspective, especially, people questioned this pick in the first place because they took a pretty solid tight end last year in Michael Mayer, and there were questions about why they would do that, especially when they have needs at quarterback. Well, that's another reason for Brock Bowers to win this award. He has Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, whoever's playing that week, throwing him the football, and he's still managing the stats that he has now, which I can pull up in a minute if we need to talk about that. I don't have them ready at the second, but yeah, that's my number one pick for sure is Brock Bowers.
You know, it's funny, when I was writing down my top picks, I didn't even think about Brock Bowers, and he is absolutely deserving to be in that conversation. I can't believe I didn't write him down. So I wrote down Bo Nix as my number one, and the way he has surged in his productivity in this back half of the year has been really, really impressive. Sean Payton has done a fantastic job developing him. And I mean, this Broncos team that I think a lot of us expected to maybe not even have a winning record is in a spot where I think they're going to be the seventh seed in the playoffs. Like, they look good. Their defense is playing well. Not last night, although they did make two massive plays. Yes and no. Like, they gave up a lot of points. It was ugly. They let Jameis Winston throw for almost 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. But then they also caught 2 touchdowns from Jameis Winston. So you go both ways on if they played well or not. I'd say as a full game, you would grade them negatively, and you'd say they made two massive plays or three massive plays with 3 picks that really shift that the other way and allow them to win that football game. But very ugly game defensively for them outside of a couple explosive plays. But for the most part, they've had a terrific defense. Obviously, remind me his name. Had a pick six yesterday, and he's been
Nick
unbelievable.
Bonita.
Nick Bonito, thank you. But to get back to focusing on Bo Nix, obviously, since he's the topic of this, I mean, Bo Nix has really, really been impressive. It looks like he's seeing the field a lot more effectively than he was earlier in the year. He's getting the ball on time a lot. He's pretty accurate with the ball. He's able to extend plays with his legs. He's doing a lot of things at a really, really high level. So it's been really impressive to watch. But Brock Bowers is absolutely deserving. I'm a little ashamed of myself for missing that one.
Well, I've been a fan of him for so long, and I'm a Bama boy, so I haven't been the fan of him the longest because he's from Georgia, so it's kind of like he's been the bane of my existence for a long time. What you were saying a little bit about the Broncos defense and everything, I mean, that's the name of the game when you're playing against Jameis Winston. He's just that guy. He's going to throw 2, 3 picks, and then he's also going to throw 400 yards. But
Last
uh,
night's game
you
was
know,
Jameis Winston football to a T. That was
that's the exact epitome of what Jameis Winston does. So that was awesome to see. But yeah, Bo Nix is someone else in my pick. I'll get into he's my second pick for offensive rookie of the year. I'll just get into it then. Something that's important to realize with him is when he came into the league as a rookie, picked I believe it was 12th overall. People knew he wasn't this, Patrick Mahomes type player or whatever. But what he does is he plays really efficient football. He gets the ball out of his hand and he doesn't turn the ball over like crazy. He takes care of it extremely well. And last night against the Browns, we saw 2 picks from him. One was not really his fault. It was a really good throw in the face of pressure with Myles Garrett barreling down at him, trying to kill him. And then Denzel Ward made a really good play on the receiver to pop the ball up in the air. There's not a lot you can do about that. And if you look at some of his turnovers and interceptions, that's what a lot of them look like, right? It's not every single interception is the quarterback throwing a bad ball. Last night was a really good example of that. The other turnover he had was a deep shot in single coverage with one of a receiver he trusts deep that kind of gave up on the play, and then you have someone, I believe it was Denzel Ward again. If not, it was just another one of those really awesome Browns cornerbacks just making a play on the ball. So some people are going to point to his turnovers and everything, but in terms of taking care of the football, playing with timing, getting the ball out right, and making big plays as well as making really efficient plays to keep the chains moving. Bo Nix is doing that at the best level right now for rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll put Jaden Daniels at 2. I think Brock Bowers is a really strong argument for anywhere in the top 3. Anywhere in the top 3, I think Brock Bowers is a strong argument for. Honestly, all 3 of these guys, I think they belong in the top 3, and I think you could make a very strong case for any 3 of them being at any of the 3 spots. So I'll talk about Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he was a lot better early in the year, and he was the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year for a while. Some people even talked about him as an MVP. I never thought he was a legitimate MVP candidate. I just thought he didn't have the numbers for that. He's playing great football, but it was like pump the brakes a little bit, and now we're seeing he's clearly not an MVP candidate, but he's a good football player. He's a good quarterback. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the OC. Cliff Kingsbury, thank you. Former Cardinals head coach, obviously, and he's done a really terrific job helping develop Jaden Daniels. The injury on his ribs clearly has slowed him down a little bit because he's not able to run as much, and that definitely hurts his game. But seeing like what he did against the Bengals early in the year was incredible, and that obviously put him in the driver's seat for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So he's slowed down, and obviously losing some games, going on a little bit of a 3-game losing streak there is going to hurt your stock if you're the quarterback and you are the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And then when you look over, the other quarterback is winning games late. So they got to go ahead and right the ship and start winning football games again. I know they got to win this past weekend, but they got to continue to do that. So as long as they can do that, Jaden Daniels is going to be in the running. And then, of course, Brock Bowers is going to be in the running.
Right. I didn't stick Jaden Daniels in this necessarily for one reason. I just thought you were probably going to talk about him. I didn't want to consistently just talk about the same players. But with Jaden Daniels versus Bo Nix, that conversation, if that's what we're going to do, one reason I took Bo Nix over Jaden Daniels for this debate is that I kind of see the gas running out for the Commanders. And that's not just Jaden Daniels as a whole. That's the team as a whole. Really, they have been slowing down incredibly the last few weeks, and that's from the offense and defensive perspective. Now, they did just whoop the Titans up pretty good, which was a really impressive game. I don't know if that's something they're going to continue to do the rest of the season. The Titans aren't a very good team. I know they beat the Texans a little bit ago, but the pick I actually do have here is another name, and this another one of those players I'm interested in talking about. It's Ladd McConkey, really good receiver right now, and he was one of those guys that I knew was going to step in. Another Georgia guy. I say I'm a Bama fan, and here I am all up on the Georgia players, but really good receiver for the Chargers. Picked in an early second round on a team that desperately needed a receiver to come in and be the number one reliable guy on the squad. Quentin Johnson's really just not getting it done for the Chargers. Justin Herbert has turned Ladd McConkey into his go-to man, so I'm a big fan of what he's been doing. Not going to go on it about a whole lot so we can move on, but Ladd McConkey should be in this debate, especially looking at how the projection for the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ladd McConkey is someone, again, I didn't really think about, but he's played really good football all season long. He's had a great connection with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, of course, playing terrific football as well. Jim Harbaugh's got those guys buzzing down there. I'm not sure there's very many teams who have it better than them. They would say nobody. But it's been impressive to watch a team, just in general, talking about the Chargers, watch a team that myself and many other people, probably you, I haven't talked to you about this, but thought going into the year, like, yeah, Harbaugh's going to get them turned around and get them going in the right direction, but I don't know about this year. They probably don't have the talent yet this year. They probably need one more season. This is a team that's probably going to be close to 500 this year, maybe a little below 500, but they'll show some promise, they'll show some fight, they'll show that energy that Jim Harbaugh teams have, and they'll get buzzing in a couple years. But no, it was bang immediately. They showed they have the talent on the squad, and they're out there competing. I mean, a couple less drops in that fourth quarter against the Ravens, and I'm not so sure that the Ravens win that football game. And even if they do, I mean, the Chargers scored a touchdown to make it a one-score game in garbage time. That would not have been garbage time if there's a couple more catches. Like, it's a 7-point game and we're dropping crucial catches. But back to Ladd McConkey, to stay focused, he's absolutely someone that's deserving of being talked about. He's had a terrific rookie season.
Yeah, and you keep in mind with that game specifically, Ladd McConkey was the one that was really keeping them involved in that game.
Yes.
And it was drops from other players, obviously. But where are we moving on to next?
Oh, yeah, let's go Defensive Rookie of the Year. Let's go Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Get the rookies out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah, we could just talk about a couple here because there's not a lot of crazy candidates. I wasn't super concerned about locking this one down. But the first pick for me is still gonna be I'll make my number one defensive rookie of the year, Quinyon Mitchell. I was originally coming in this with Jared Verse, but this is always a difficult conversation with defensive rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, is trying to stick corners in there because you don't have the stats that show up the same way as they do for edge rushers. With edge rushers or defensive tackles or whatever, it's easy to look at the sacks. And although I would say that Jared Verse is having a really great year for a rookie, and he's shown that his power translates from college to the NFL, I will go with Quinyon Mitchell because he's just, not only has he been so amazing and has been able to shadow so many really top-of-the-line receivers, but he's making a huge impact on a team that needed this to work out. They needed a cornerback. If you remember back to last year, one of the main issues with the Eagles was, and especially with their defense, is that their cornerback room was so lackluster. Now with having Quinyon Mitchell, who was my CB1 in this draft class, he's really stepped up and has just played some of the best ball out of anyone this year. And, with cornerbacks, it's one of those positions similar to receivers where it doesn't always take 3 years to get going. Sometimes guys are really good at what they do, and they come in 20 years old, 21, whatever it is, and they're just ready to go. And to me, Quinyon Mitchell is one of those guys.
Yeah, we saw Surtain and Sauce do that in their respective rookie years. And, I mean, yeah, Mitchell is definitely someone who's been fantastic. I mean, you look at that Eagles team, like you said, really, really struggled in the secondary. They go ahead and they keep Darius Slay, and they bring in Mitchell and DeJean, and it's just night and day. And then you bring in, of course, Vic Fangio, who was catching a ton of heat in Miami. The players revolted against him, a whole mess. And you go, oh, can Vic Fangio still coach? And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, Vic Fangio can still coach. Maybe the Dolphins are just soft. But to stay on topic, Jared Verse has been terrific. Quinyon Mitchell's been terrific. Cooper DeJean. And what's weird is those big, heavy hitters that we really thought would be in the race. I know you and I talked about this before we started recording, but Dallas Turner and Laiatu Latu, I know those are guys that were really beloved by any pundit or anyone who really paid attention. I'm someone who didn't pay a ton of attention to the college game. I'm an NFL guy, but I would go and I watched some film. And what I noticed right away with Laiatu Latu was I was trying to break down Caleb Williams' film, and I'm watching the USC-UCLA game, and I'm going, oh my God, Laiatu Latu is wrecking this game. Every play that was bad that Caleb Williams made, or anytime Caleb Williams wasn't able to make a play, it was because Laiatu Latu was a monster, just disrupting everything. And to see those guys, Dallas Turner and Laiatu Latu, kind of not be nearly as loud, not nearly as noisy in this conversation as we expect them to be, to the point where they're not even close to favorites. I mean, we got Quinyon Mitchell and Jared Verse, and they're dominating the conversation, and rightfully so. Those are the guys that should be in the front. So weird to see that for sure. Respect to those guys for stepping up and really exceeding expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I will say with what you were saying about Laiatu Latu, you're totally right about how he hasn't been making that noise. One thing that has really disappointed me more so is with the Colts and how they've handled and been using him. As you were watching his film, he's a very technical guy, very technically skilled. He's not just, Jared Verse is a power rusher. He's going to shove you back into the quarterback's lap. Laiatu Latu is going to get you off you with his hands. He's going to swipe. He's got a bunch of awesome moves. He always has counter moves ready. The Colts haven't been using him the exact way I'd want them to. Regardless, he hasn't been performing well enough to really be in this conversation anyways. As much as I loved him, he was my edge rusher one. The Rams have found a really awesome way to use Jared Verse. So that's kind of the difference of with the situation that the rookie is in versus how good they are. It's always tough for this topic, but yeah,
We'll see if Gus Bradley's able to figure it out.
probably not.
No, it's not happening. It's not happening. The defense has been playing. I think they've been playing better the last few weeks, though, for the most part. I mean, 24 points against the Patriots isn't great, but you know.
Well, that's the other thing is they have also played the Patriots and the Jets and
Hey, the Jets are a great offense, man. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
That should be one of the best offenses in the league, then, right?
Unfortunately,
they're winning a lot of games, aren't they?
Tyron Smith, dude, they're stacked. They're stacked.
Stacked.
Unfortunately, it's not 2021. Tyron Smith is a shell of himself.
He's looked man.
It's been depressing.
Historic. Through his career, he's been an incredible tackle, and then this year, it looks like he just doesn't want to play for them. It looks like he's given up on Rodgers and everything they have going, and he doesn't care to block for him. He's getting getting paid, and he's close to retirement. I think he's just waiting for the season to be over.
No one's giving up on Rodgers, okay? As some people might call me biased, but I have decided that Aaron Rodgers deserves 0% of the blame that is going on in New York.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. He deserves some of it, but yeah, we're not going to get into that because it's off topic. We'll revisit that another time. Let's jump to, we want to go offensive player of the year or defensive player of the year? I'll let you pick.
Let's go offensive player of the year.
Awesome. Let's get back in here. Offensive player of the year. You want me to start or I can start? Whichever one. I just said you, me, or
first.
I. You or me.
You're making sure it's you, so.
All right, I'll go. I'm going to take Saquon Barkley for Offensive Player of the Year. I think he's been incredible. You look at how explosive he's been in this back half of the year especially, and in the second half of games, he's murdering people. Saquon Barkley in the second half of games is fourth in the league in rushing yards. He has been incredible. So, I mean, it's Saquon at 1, Derek 2, Packers running back. Why am I drawing a blank on everything? I remember everything before I hit record. Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs at 3. Saquon Barkley in the second half is the fourth leading rusher in the NFL. He's been unbelievable, and that doesn't even include what he's done as a pass catcher. He's had several touchdowns stolen from him by Jalen Hurts' QB sneaks. Otherwise, on any other offense with the same offensive line, with the philosophy that wasn't, all right, 1 yard, sneak it, which I'm not criticizing the philosophy. It's a really good philosophy because it's so effective. But anywhere else or in almost any other circumstance, he would have even more touchdowns than he already has, and he's got a lot of touchdowns to begin with. So he's been unbelievable. I think he should be the front runner for Offensive Player of the Year right now.
Yeah, awesome point. I mean, that was my first pick also. I won't spend too much time on him, but he's playing really, really good football. And when you look at his history, being on the Giants, not playing behind a good offensive line, not being able to play complementary football with other good receivers and a quarterback that, Daniel Jones.
He had that playoff year.
Yeah, he did. But this is what we all wanted for Saquon, is like to see what happens when you stick him behind a team like this. And it's alleviating some of the pressure off of him to have guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the team. But that shouldn't take away from what he's doing. All that is doing is making it known that this is what he can do when he has a structure around him, especially the offensive line that you're talking about. Moving on from that, since I don't want to just sit and hound about Saquon, my second pick is Jamar Chase. Now this one's really tough to argue because the Bengals just haven't been doing well. Their record isn't showing them playing particularly well, but you look at this offense and how amazing that it has been, despite all the not just defensive issues, but game management issues from the coaching end. I think this is Zach Taylor's last year being the coach of the Bengals. That could be a whole different topic. But regardless, we're kind of seeing the opposite spectrum in a way from what I was just talking about with Saquon, where this isn't all complimentary for Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. It really is those two versus the world. And Jamar Chase coming into the league, being drafted, everyone saw the upside he had. Everyone saw how good he could be. First 2 seasons, he looked amazing, but he didn't. I'm going to sit here and say this is his breakout season. Now, you look at his stats the first 2 years, you would say there's no need to say a breakout. Well, this is the breakout of a season in which he's elevated to that top 3, top 5 sort of conversation for receivers. He might be the best receiver in the league right now, actually. So that's why it's tough for me to leave him out. I know the Bengals and their record, it's tough to stick a player on a team that is doing poorly into predictions for awards and everything. But Jamar Chase is just playing top-notch football, and he's doing it against some of the best cornerbacks and defenses in the league as well. And the consistency game to game of having to score 30, 35, 40 points to keep up. He's still rolling. He's still going. He hasn't slowed down with anything. Even in losses, he's playing incredible football.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is incredible, and I would be remiss to not have him on there. I have him at 4, and honestly, that's more of a testament to the other guys on here because there are some incredible players this year. I've got Derrick Henry at 2, and this is a guy that honestly would be an MVP candidate in most years, and Saquon's stealing the show from him even. And Derrick Henry's having one of the best seasons of his career. He's going to maybe rush for over 2,000 yards. But Saquon Barkley's on pace to break the rushing record. Derrick Henry's on pace to get damn close to it, if not break it. He's playing amazing football too. I know he's got more touchdowns in an offense where the tush-push is not a thing. So that helps him on the goal line situation for sure. But not to take anything away from Derrick Henry, he has been unbelievable. And in a year where Saquon Barkley is a New York Giant, Derrick Henry, in my opinion, is the front runner for Offensive Player of the Year. But you got to include Jamar Chase in there somewhere as well. Unbelievable he's doing it. He's leading the league in yards, catches, and touchdowns, correct? Is he still doing that? So
I'm pretty sure he's triple crowning right now.
He's triple crowning right now. I know he was like a week or two ago. Figured he still was. He and Burrow are really just a two-man wrecking crew. T. Higgins shows up from time to time, but I'm pretty sure he also had a drop that led to an interception that pretty much ended the game for him against
He's
the Steelers,
been hurt
correct?
Too.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's big time. And yeah, those two were unbelievable to watch. It is a damn shame that their defense is as sorry and pathetic as it is. Giving up 44 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers is an astonishingly low achievement. So
I haven't seen the Steelers score that many points in a decade. I don't know. I can't. Maybe when Ben and AB were in full swing, but through my life, the Steelers don't score points like that, and they did against the Bengals.
Pre-Ben elbow injury, before Big Ben's elbow injury. So you got to go back to 2016, 2017 to see a Steelers offense this explosive, or have this explosive a game. I'm not sure they put up that many points in any of those games in 2016, and they went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Patriots in 2016. They were a great team.
Because that was still a defensive team. Mike Tomlin's always been a defensive guy, defensive coach and everything. So
2016 and 2017, those defenses kind of stunk because they had Ryan Shazier got hurt in 2017. Right. 2017, Ryan Shazier got hurt. Remember, that was the year of the Jesse James bobble on the goal line against the Patriots where the ball turned and they called it incomplete. So that was 2017, but they had a really, really good offense there. They scored like 40 points and lost to the Jags in the divisional round. What a weird year 2017 was. Oh my God.
Yeah. That was one of those years I really started watching football intensely. I've been keeping up with football for a while, but that's one of those years where I knew I want to be a football guy.
One of the early years. Yeah, that championship week was unbelievable. Nick Foles and Case Keenum in the NFC, and then Blake Bortles and Tom Brady in the AFC for the championship games. That was an incredible time to be alive. Peak Leonard Fournette. That was pretty awesome. But yeah, that was really the last time the Steelers offense we've seen at a high level because the following year Big Ben tore up his elbow and their offense hasn't been the same since. Big Ben was a shell of himself when he came back. So it's been a long time. And that was when AB was there. So Juju was a dog at the number 2 position for wide receivers. And people were thinking, hey, is Juju Smith-Schuster like a top 10, top 15 receiver? Nope. No.
Well, that year maybe he was.
Yeah.
He was really good his rookie year and sophomore year as far as I remember, but yeah, he fell off pretty hardcore.
Now he's hey, no more TikTok dances in Kansas City though. He's building his way back up. He's building his way back up, but he, he got cut from New
If
England this
they win
offseason.
the
Now he's on the
Super
blow.
Bowl, if they win the Super Bowl, then they can let him do his TikTok dances midfield, and I won't say anything. They earned it.
Maybach, hop on the whip all black. Um, you got a number 3 for offensive player of the year, or did you kind of stick to 2 there?
Offensive, yeah, I did stick one more guy in here. The problem I have with this is I addressed this team earlier when we were talking about someone else, and I'm worried about their longevity through the rest of the season, or if they've kind of fluttered off a little bit. The other guy I have for offensive player of the year, and this is one of those ones I kind of just want to talk about, and Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
He's been a top 10 receiver his whole career,
Preach.
and all he needed was a quarterback. He's got it, and we've seen him do some incredible things this season. Now, they've faced some losses recently and haven't played the best football within the last few weeks, and that's kind of one of the things I was saying a minute ago, which is I don't know if this is going to keep continuing. They're going to keep playing incredibly well and winning football games like they did at the start of the season. But that by no means is a correlation to Terry McLaurin slowing down, because this is a guy that's been performing and producing with Taylor Heineke and Marcus Mariota and whoever else the Commanders have started. Probably
Peg-legged
12
Alex
different.
Smith.
Yeah, exactly. 12 different quarterbacks in the last 5, 6, 7 years or whatever. And now he's got his guy. I wouldn't be surprised even if the Commanders do lose some games to finish this season, he's going to keep producing, and they're just going to keep leaning on him. Now, Jaden Daniels being a part of this conversation, his deep ball is incredible, and their connection and their chemistry is awesome. I've loved seeing what he's done, and we kind of forgot that Terry McLaurin not only makes awesome catches that no one else really makes except for like George Pickens, but he's also an amazing run after catch guy. You get the ball in his hands and he just takes off. We remember what we saw in Dallas, again, another game that the Commanders lost. But 30 seconds left on the clock, you get a deep shot down to Terry McLaurin, and he makes that Dallas secondary look homeless and takes it to the house. Fortunately, Kick messed it up. But yeah, he's awesome. So I wanted to talk about him and include him in this. I think it's a possibility he gets brought up into this conversation towards the end of the season.
That's super fair. I think Terry McLaurin is someone that I'm glad you said that he's been a top 10 receiver his whole career, because that is absolutely the truth. He is someone that has been overlooked because he's had to play with guys like Taylor Heineke, and I'm drawing a blank on other guys that have been there, but not.
But that's the point.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's the point. No memorableness.
I can't think of anyone. Taylor Heineke, I remember him because he almost beat Tom Brady in the playoff game, and Chase Young was getting excited saying his name on the sideline. That's about the only reason I remember that guy's name. Not a whole lot of memorable quarterback play there. I got Lamar Jackson. I think he's someone that's got to be an offensive player of the year candidate as well. He's been so unbelievable, not just through the air, but on the ground. And the fact that the pressure has been taken off of him with Derrick Henry to where he's able to not have the Otis as much on him with Derrick Henry, and it takes the pressure off. He's been unbelievable. And you look at, he's got 3 picks, and none of them are really his fault. All tipped passes. And what you see what he does to defenses when he's on the field. I mean, it's really hard to sack him, not just because it's hard to catch him when he's running, but because of just the mere threat of his speed changes the way defenses are able to pass rush him. You just straight up can't run certain defenses against him that you would have been able to run against a Tom Brady, or can run against Patrick Mahomes, even can run against Josh Allen. I mean, Lamar Jackson's a guy that you have to be so sound in your rush lanes. You have to maintain that rush lane integrity to such a disciplined degree that it makes it so difficult to actually shed blocks and get through linemen. You're almost trying to stay engaged just be there if he leaves the pocket. It is so difficult to get him on the ground, and that gives him so much more time in the pocket to where he doesn't even have to scramble. Like, the threat of him scrambling allows him to not have to scramble. And we've seen just an unbelievable step forward in his ability to pass the football. And I'll talk about him more later because he's obviously another candidate. So that's all I'm going to say on him. But I think he's someone that has been absolutely unbelievable and deserves to be in the Offensive Player of the Year candidate discussion. Although I don't think he
Yeah,
should win it, he should be spoken about.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking to a Ravens fan right
Yeah.
now, and the the thing with Lamar and his rushing ability, getting out of the pocket and everything, at this point in his career now, you're not even as worried about him getting out of the pocket and then running crazy and getting a bunch of yards that way. You're worried about him getting out of the pocket and then someone like Zay Flowers unlatching off the man coverage he has or zone or whatever, finding soft spots and Lamar launching it down the field. The way he's improved as a passer, it's been mind blowing. I'm so happy that he's my quarterback. But yeah, like, totally valid having him in your list.
Let's jump to Defensive Player of the Year. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a name out there at number one that I think so many people disrespect at such an extreme degree because he plays for a crappy defense and they're kind of just known for not having a good defense. Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks. He was second in the league in sacks last year, and somehow nobody talks about him. He was really good in New Orleans before he went over to Cincinnati. He's been fantastic his entire tenure in Cincinnati. He is deserving of a discussion for Defensive Player of the Year. He leads the league in sacks. He's playing elite football again this year. He's really one of the few, if not only, bright spot on that entire Bengals defense. And the fact that with how inept they are on defense, he still manages to get back there because it's so much harder to get sacks when it's easier to focus on him because there's no other real threats on that defense. And the secondary is so awful that you really have to get to the quarterback really, really fast because guys are getting open so quickly. Like everything is set up for Trey Hendrickson himself to fail, and he is still putting numbers on the stat sheet that are really impressive to the point that he's leading the league in sacks. He needs to be talked about. He's not really being talked about to the degree he needs to be talked about, and I think he should be the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's the one I totally left off my list, not just by accident. And you make a lot of really great points. The thing with Trey Hendrickson is he's been underrated his whole career. This is nothing new to him. He's always shown up production wise, and he is that guy that you have to game plan for. And like you were saying, there's not a lot of other pieces on this D line to just have to worry about also. So people and teams are focusing on him. They're sliding to his side basically every time, and he's still getting free. That ball's coming out quick because the secondary isn't covering up well. He's still getting to the quarterback. So love that take there. The guy I have as my first pick for Defensive Player of the Year, someone that maybe a lot of other people don't know about, but I've been keeping up with a good bit, is Nick Bonito, outside linebacker edge rusher for the Denver Broncos. Last night we saw him get a pretty impressive interception, but that's not the whole story on him. He's second or third, tied for third in the league for sacks. Second, that's what I was thinking, 10.5.
He's got 11. He's got 11. He's
11,
a half sack
11.
behind Hendrickson.
Right, awesome. 11 sacks. I mean, this guy is producing, and we've seen Sean Payton step into the Broncos and just kind of change the structure of this defense, change how they play football, and change the demeanor of how they play football. And this is one of the guys I've seen been affected one of the most. The thing with the Broncos is they needed someone like this to step up for this defense to take the next leap that it needs to. And Nick Bonito is a guy, he's young enough that this could be a serious game changer for them in the future. I hope they give him a nice contract when it comes up. I'm pretty sure it's by the end of this season, heading into next season, they'll need to give him a contract. This is someone I could see earning a contract, a pretty substantial one, and also being in consideration for DPOY because I don't think he's slowing down at all. And I think the Broncos are really just now kind of getting going and are the best football for this season is still ahead of them, especially if they get into the playoffs, which I'm not sure exactly at the moment how the seeding and everything is looking, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So Nick Bonito is awesome. That's my first pick.
Yeah, and he's someone, instead of taking responsibility for my own ineptitude in terms of doing research enough to know about this guy, I'm just going to go ahead and point the finger at sports media for not talking about him enough. he has been incredible in like 11 sacks, second in the league in sacks, a half sack behind first. He's got 36 tackles, which is 4 more than Hendrickson has. He's been a terrific player, and he had an awesome pick six last night, and he's someone that nobody is talking about. So someone else that needs to be talked about. And I talked about Denver's defense playing better earlier. He is a big, big piece of that. Obviously, anytime you're going to get 11 sacks, 12, 13 games into the season, anytime you have 12 games into the season, anytime you have 11 sacks, 12 games into the season, you're going to be a big part of your defense's success if it's having success. And unlike the Bengals, Bonito's defense is having success. So credit to him. I'm going to go ahead and show just a slight bit of my bias, but just a slight, because I do think this guy is absolutely deserving. Xavier McKinney is tied for the league lead in interceptions with 7. He has been incredible. And when you look at the transformation of this Packers defense, they went from Joe Barry to Jeff Hafley at defensive coordinator, and their defense looks night and day. It's not even close to the same defense. They shut down Miami, and they have a really good offense. Now, of course, it was in the snow, so you might argue, and now Miami's defense showed up in the second half, but it was too little too late. You could argue, hey, the cold hindered this soft Miami defense, and the Packers defense didn't really do anything great. You could argue that if not for the fact that this Packers defense has played fantastic all year long. And even when they lost to the Lions, it wasn't the Packers defense's fault. It was turnovers by the offense, sloppiness by the offense. The Packers defense was fantastic against one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL in Detroit. So this is a defense that has been playing very, very well for almost the entire year. They're up there in takeaways, and the leader of that defense is Xavier McKinney. He's been unbelievable, and it's gotten to the point where he had 5 picks in the first 5 games of the season, and then he went without a pick in a game, and then he got another pick in the 7th game of the season, and teams just don't want to throw wherever he's at. They just go, oh, Xavier McKinney's over there? Let me go ahead and not throw over there, because if I do, it's going to be a turnover. He's been unbelievable, and he is deserving of being in that upper echelon of candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. Whether he's 1 or 4, he's got to be in the conversation.
Yeah, Xavier McKinney was my second pick as well. I didn't even know you were going there, but this is another one of those guys that's kind of been held back and has been underrated based off the team that he's on, being on the Giants and the fact that they haven't had great teams historically throughout, or not historically, but throughout the last few seasons, last few years or whatever. Xavier McKinney was on the Giants and was playing good football. He had a really good rookie season, and since then, while he's been healthy, he's been one of the top safeties in the league. It's hard to show that necessarily, especially because you mentioned his interceptions. Interceptions are awesome. They are a little bit of a fickle stat. And I don't recall him having those kinds of interception numbers when he was on the Giants. But one thing he did have was just his ability to play really good football and play the safety position at a high level. Now looking at him on the Packers, it's not just the interceptions. You're entirely right about him. He's a really good player. He's a really good safety, and he's versatile, moving him around in different areas. And that is adding a huge impact, him being on the field wherever he is. It's adding a huge impact on how offenses are playing against the Packers because, like you said, they can't throw his way. The other player I will mention, I don't want to go on about Xavier too long, PS2. I mean, I've got Patrick Surtain here. 2 Broncos players. I'm not a Broncos fan, I swear, but Patrick Surtain, this is – he came into the league and, Sauce Gardner was that guy and went off to the rookie of the year and everything and became the best corner in the league. And then people just kind of forgot Patrick Surtain and how awesome he is. And then, the Broncos struggled recently as well. So he kind of got forgotten about. And then, when you have Sean Payton, some of the similar stuff I was talking about with Nick Bonito, Sean Payton comes in with his defensive mind and the structure he wants to bring to this defense. And it's a new ball game for PS2. He's able to play his style and not worry about what's going on around him and having to clean up for other people, which sometimes leads to the job he was supposed to do getting messed up. He's playing, I'd honestly say right now, the best corner in the league at this moment. I don't know if that's something that needs to be argued, but just this season and recent bias. This is the best cornerback in the league, so PS2 is going to be my third sort of pick there.
Yeah, PS2 is absolutely awesome, and I think you're right. He's the best corner in the league, and Vance Joseph has done a terrific job. I know a lot of people wanted him fired, but retaining him and seeing what he's done with the defense, he's done a terrific job with that defense this year. Sean Payton reinstalling a new culture in Denver. They've done a fantastic job. Vance Joseph is a huge piece of it. PS2 is a huge piece of it. I'm going to go ahead and name another secondary player, Brian Branch. Brian Branch has been fantastic. Another NFC North player. And just to show that I'm not a completely delusional Packers fan, not only am I going to say Brian Branch, but I'm going to say that ejection in the Packers-Lions game was complete nonsense. There is no way you can justify. Was it a penalty? Sure. Was it even close to justifiable for an ejection? Absolutely not. And there's another player I can think of on the grounds of not, obviously his was more egregious. We'll get around to that at some point. But Brian Branch has been fantastic this year. When I talked about Xavier McKinney being kind of the leader for that Packers defense, I think Brian Branch is absolutely one of the names you think of on that Lions defense, especially with Aiden Hutchinson out, who's kind of that top name that you'd think of on that defense. That defense has been able to stay productive, and that secondary has been able to continue to perform despite the fact that the Lions are struggling now to get pressure at a much higher degree than they were when Hutchinson was there. So seeing Hutchinson gone, seeing that pass rush really take a dive in terms of how they're able to get to the quarterback and what they have to do to get to the quarterback, they were able to do a lot more things that involved sending less pressure when you got a guy like Hutchinson on the edge that can just win against whoever. You don't have that anymore, so there's going to be a lot more pressure on the secondary, and it's still been able to hold up and perform, and Brian Branch is, in my opinion, the biggest part of that. Kirby Joseph has been terrific as well, but Brian Branch, I think, deserves the bulk of the credit for being able to quarterback that secondary to the degree that he's been able to do it.
Yeah, he adds so much value to this team, and like I was mentioning with Xavier, I think this is an even bigger thing for Brian Branch is that versatility I was talking about. He is the definition of versatility, and he's Kyle Hamilton, I would say, is the most versatile safety in the league. Brian Branch isn't far off. The only difference between him and Hamilton is Hamilton plays a little bit more. He's got a little bit more of the frame and body to play down on the line. But don't get me wrong, Brian Branch is going to get down on the line of scrimmage and mess some offensive game plans up. So I love Brian Branch, one of my favorite players in the league. That's a great pick.
He'll get down there and lay someone out. Sometimes it'll cause an ejection, but he'll hit someone. He will hit someone.
He's easily one of the best tacklers in the league too, especially if you look at like his missed tackle percentage. It's unbelievably low.
He is Dan Campbell football. I mean, and that's what's so awesome about this Lions team is even as a Packers fan, I can't hate them because like they embody winning football. So like that's when I think football, I think everything that Detroit embodies. So it's awesome to see. I just wish it was in a different division seeing that, but yeah, it's awesome. So
you're in a real tough one,
right? 9 wins and you're third place, absolutely ridiculous.
Hey, AFC North. I go through this pretty regularly too.
Fair enough. I mean, for the last several years, AFC North was undebatably the best division in football, and the NFC North has taken that mantle. But I'd say AFC North is probably second best right now. So, yeah. And the Bengals are a lot better than their record says. They're going to give anyone a battle. So, not their defense.
Absolutely.
They're going to give their offense as a track meet, though. I'm good on Defensive Player of the Year. Is there anyone you wanted to really call out?
Defensive Player of the Year, I think, the only other person I was literally thinking of bringing up was Brian Branch, and we already talked about him, so I'm good.
TJ Watt's going to be in the discussion every year. He's a couple sacks behind right now. He's at 9.5 as opposed to Hendrickson's 11.5, and he's got 43 tackles, so he's got 11 more tackles than Hendrickson. He's got 7 more. Am I good at math? Yep, 7. 7 more than Benito. So Watt is playing incredible football. He's created a ton of turnovers as well, strip sacks. He's an absolute menace. So he's got to be in the discussion. I know I said I was done, but I do have to say TJ Watt. He is still incredible. I still think he's the best defensive player in the league. Just not having maybe quite the numbers in sacks, just because he's not first in sacks like he has been so many times, 3 times, which is the most by any player in NFL history. So he's going to be incredible year in and year out. He's going to be in the discussion year in and year out. And I'm pretty sure he's damn near, if not the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. So he's got to be in the conversation. But
yeah, well, I bet in some manner they're trying to make up for some of the other times he didn't get it. But
twice.
Also the Yep, twice.
Snubbed.
I'd also say the Steelers are playing just more concise, complementary football across the board, offense and defense, and it's put them in a position where they don't need T.J. Watt to make those huge plays all the time. And it's not that he's taking plays off because there isn't the need for it, but when you're more structured and have more of a organized situation where the defense isn't on the field as much because your offense is actually rolling and moving, killing some time off the clock. There just isn't that opportunity as much. But yeah, like you're talking about, TJ Watt is someone that's, fully deserving to be in this conversation.
Yeah. It's a shame Max Crosby doesn't have the sack numbers this year. You know what's unbelievable is Aiden Hutchinson has been out for God knows how long now. Did he get hurt against Tampa in week 2?
It was like I thought it was week 5 or something.
I'm wrong. He had 5 sacks against Tampa. He didn't get hurt against Tampa. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But he is 17th in the league in sacks. He has 7.5 sacks. He is 4 sacks behind the league leader, and he's been hurt for well over half the year. Like, he's tied with Max Crosby in sacks. He's got 19 tackles. That is unbelievable. He's missed over half the year.
Yeah, he played 5 games. Mm-hmm.
He's missed over half the year at this point, and he's still top 20 in sacks. That is absurd. So I just wanted to give Hutch some credit real quick before we move on to you want to cover.
That would easily be my pick. Yeah, let's do comeback player of the year. Not to be mean to this award, but I kind of want to get it out of the way.
That's fair, and I think coach of the year is a loaded one because there's so many deserving ones. So we're going to be able to spend a little bit of time on that. So let's go ahead and let's do comeback player of the year. I'm going to let you go ahead and take the lead on this one if you want.
Yeah, so I don't know how eligible this person is for it, but he did miss, I think it was more than half the season last year. It was the beginning half of last season. Kyler Murray, I'm going to stick into this. And, there's some other people to bring in this conversation. I'm a fan of Kyler Murray. I think he's become one of the most underrated players and quarterbacks in the league. People forget about just his ability and how much he can control and command a football game when he's on and when he's healthy. And I've been one of the biggest promoters for the Arizona Cardinals the last year or two. It was, some of the first few videos I did on my channel were about them. And I just love Kyler Murray and what he's got going on. So that's my first pick for comeback player of the year.
Yeah, and you look at what Jonathan Gannon's done. I mean, he's someone that was kind of a laughing stock when he came in there with all those memes and stuff, and they're going, oh, this is the Murr of football. And this is just a joke. Oh, you're explosive. Shoom, shoom, shoom. Like, he's kind of just a goofy guy.
He's an odd guy.
And, there's that clip of him. He's like, who took the bus this morning? Who drove here? What was it he said? He said, like, you fired up or something like that? It was.
You got that fire in your gut?
You got that fire in your gut? Yeah, just kind of corny. But, yeah, Kyler Murray's my number 2 for comeback player of the year. I think he's absolutely deserving of the discussion. I 100% agree with you. I think the front runner, though, and I honestly think running away with it, is Joe Burrow. I mean, that wrist explodes and he misses the back half of the year last year. And then he goes, and the team is struggling. The team's terrible. But it's not his fault at all. Like, he's second in yards and second in touchdowns. Sorry, no, he's first in yards. He's first in yards. I got the stats right here. He's ahead in yards by about 40 yards. And he is second. No, he's first in touchdown passes as well. So he's unbelievable. And it's not his fault at all that they're losing games. This defense has been so unbelievably pathetic. The Bengals have scored 33 points or more in 6 games this season, and they're 2-4 in those games, which is just astonishing. They lose both of those games against the Ravens by the grace of God, and by the grace of God, I mean a bad kick, which, by the way, was preceded by horrible game management decision-making to run the ball 3 straight times in that overtime game instead of saying, hey, their defense, their secondary, they made one good play where they picked the ball off, but they can't hang with us. So let's go ahead and pass the ball and make this kick a little bit easier. No, we're going to run the ball 3 times, get stuffed, kick a long field goal, miss. Ravens go down, kick a field goal, win. And then they get away with, I know you're a Ravens fan, the Ravens got away with a little bit there on that 2-point conversion there at the end. There's arguable PI, arguable defensive holding, unarguable face mask. Uh, there was a lot going on there on that last play. And I'm not saying the game was rigged or anything. I mean, the Ravens obviously played a damn good game too, and it's like whoever wins a game like that is deserving of the win. But questionable stuff going on, and the fact that they lose both those games, absolutely brutal. Joe Burrow has been unbelievable, and it's not his fault that the team is struggling the way they are. The rest of the league combined has, I think, one loss when scoring 33 or more points this season, and they've got 4. So that's impressive. That's a feat.
Impressively bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But impressive for Joe Burrow, absolutely.
So yeah, I got Burrow at 1. Go ahead and take your second guy.
Joe Burrow is my 2.
Fair.
I mean that's pretty clear pick, and you went over it pretty well. It's a real shame seeing what he's doing, and I'll tell you what, I'm in college, I'm an Alabama fan. In the NFL, I'm a Ravens fan. Joe Burrow is the exact opposite of those things in both college and the NFL, and I'm probably one of his biggest fans and supporters. I love the dude to death. He just plays football so well. He plays football so well. He's got the game figured out, and he's just a top-of-the-line quarterback, top-of-the-line guy. And, he's early in his year, he was able to reach a Super Bowl, and then last year some weird stuff happened, and he was injured. He's been dealing with a little bit of injuries. And then you get into this season, and this is easily your MVP frontrunner if, the Bengals win some games and have their defense figured out.
Yeah.
And, you can't go there necessarily, because if he was so valuable, then they would win more games. That's kind of the reason why you can't have a team with a losing record or a team that's doing bad be the MVP.
The MVP has to
are
make the playoffs, really.
Exactly, because if they are so valuable, they should be able to win. Now, that's pretty extreme for this situation, because he really is playing incredible football, and is just being held back by so many other factors. But regardless, there's nothing wrong with him being comeback player of the year or putting him in offensive player of the year discussion, whatever you want to do with him. But I just feel for Joe Burrow so much, and I wish the Bengals would do better.
Yeah, right. Do better is that is honestly the sentiment. And for a Ravens fan to say, "I wish the Bengals would do better," just shows how pathetic they've been. Like that is because obviously you don't want them to do better than your team. So it is honestly a real shame seeing how this season has gone for them, how it's unfolded.
One thing I know about being in this division is there's going to be 3 in the playoffs usually. So we just need one team to stink it up. The Browns are already stinking it up. We don't need the Bengals to stink it up either. So there's room for all of us at the table, except the Bengals can't quite get it done on defense.
Yeah, and usually it's Pittsburgh that's running away. No, sorry. Usually it's Pittsburgh that's clawing their way into the playoffs last second. That could be Cincinnati this year if they win out. But even if they win out, it's a long shot. You're gonna need Denver to lose a lot. You're going to need Indianapolis to drop a couple. All right, cool. So for Coach of the Year, I've got a front runner for Coach of the Year. I think it should be Dan Campbell. And honestly, I think it's a culmination of everything he's accomplished as a Detroit Lion. I know it's just for this year, but when you think about what Dan Campbell means, not just to the team, but the city of Detroit, but for the sake of being specific with the award, just for the team is enough. What he's done, the culture that he has instilled. I mean, when you think about what is a coach's job? A coach's job is to instill a winning culture and hire a good staff, right? Teach fundamentals, teach all the things that the Lions are clearly doing well on the screen, clearly doing well out there on the field, and then instill a culture, which we can all see the Lions probably have the best culture in the NFL, and hire a good staff, which he has done just a chef's kiss job with that as well. Ben Johnson, maybe the best play caller in the NFL, and Aaron Glenn, who has been terrific in his own right and what he's been able to do with this defense and how he's been able to maintain the productivity of this defense without Aiden Hutchinson. So I don't think anything says Coach of the Year like what Dan Campbell has done for this Detroit Lions.
Absolutely, and I have him on my list really quickly before I
Sorry,
talk about him.
connection.
Yeah, so I also have Dan Campbell as one of my picks. Really quickly though, when I typed his name into my computer in my notes, I don't know if it autocorrected or if I typed it this, but it says Dan Dumbbell. Um, so that's not to be rude to him, but that's a little bit indicative of his personality a bit. He's not that he's hard headed or anything, but he's just got this strong sort of mentality about
Gives off
him.
that vibe.
He gives off the vibe of a dumbbell. I didn't do it intentionally, but it worked out okay. But listen, Dan Campbell is absolutely just doing what he's done for the Lions is you'd expect it to be someone like a Kyle Shanahan or Mike McDaniel, one of these offensive minded guys, these gurus that knows every play call that's going to work and everything. And we've talked about making videos on this already in the future, but the NFL is shifting and changing. It was in going to the deep ball passing and the crazy play design and everything. Dan Campbell is bringing classic football back. He's got two running backs that he can dice you up with at any time. He's got the best offensive line in the league, probably
I would agree.
off the top of my head. I'd say it's the best offensive line, and a quarterback that maybe doesn't have the biggest arm and can't run around like Lamar Jackson, but he's smart and he gets the ball out on time and he's accurate and he just takes command of the team. Jared Goff. And then the thing I like about Dan Campbell and what he's done for the roster, now I know he's not the GM, but he definitely has heavy influence on who plays and who comes in and what they do in free agency, what they do in the draft. He's bringing in guys that are bought into the program. They're bought into the mentality. Everyone that he's been a part of drafting has that same kind of demeanor. They're a little bit nastier. They're a little bit mean. Not that they're cheats. They are cheaters in any way or anything, but they play with that chip on their shoulder. Everyone here plays with that chip on their shoulder. They're all bought into the same thing, and that's one of the most important parts about being a coach is getting everyone on the same page. The other thing that you mentioned with Dan Campbell is I'll use a different word for it, but he's totally unselfish. He doesn't mind having someone like Ben Johnson be the offensive mind play caller guy, drawing up the stuff, getting a lot of attention. He doesn't mind having Aaron Glenn be the defensive guru guy. He's focused on doing what he does best at the best of his ability and letting the guys around him who he brought in and he knows are talented and really good at what they do, letting them do what they need to do to make the team best, because that's what he realizes is an important stepping stone for success. So hat off to Dan Campbell. He's fantastic. Talked about him a little bit too much, but I'll get to my next pick really quickly with Kevin O'Connell for the Vikings. This is another guy similar to what I was just saying about Dan Campbell, where he's very unselfish, especially when you look at with someone like Brian Flores being a part of this coaching staff. Now, if the Lions have the best overall coaching staff in the league, I'd say the Vikings are a close second. You look at from the offensive coordinator, which is in a lot of ways Kevin O'Connell himself when it comes to play calling and what kind of offense he wants to have. And then Brian Flores is his best defensive coordinator in the league right now, I'd say.
Spags is up there.
Either way, right, for sure. Spags and probably Vance Joseph is going to be up there, but
Fangio.
Flores, no way denying what Flores is doing. Now, I'm not talking about Flores. I said Kevin O'Connell. One thing that's amazing about Kevin O'Connell is the treatment with Sam Darnold and what they've been able to bring back out of him, how they've made him relevant and bring confidence to him again. And just the way Kevin O'Connell's brought a real identity to this team. Now, he's been there a little while, so it's not like this is his first year. And but he's obviously been a good coach as long as he's been there. But this year has been a real testament to the ability he has to lead and guide a program as the head coach. So he's my number one guy on this list here.
Yeah, O'Connell's super fair, and I believe this is his third year with them. I think his first year was when they went to the playoffs and lost to the Giants, and then he loses Kirk Cousins last year. He makes a very serviceable quarterback out of Josh Dobbs for a little bit, and then, of course, Josh Dobbs falls off, and then they're not as good. But O'Connell has proven that there is not a more quarterback-friendly coach in the NFL besides Andy Reid. And that's it. That is it. That's the end of the list. Like, even Shanahan and with the Niners, I don't think it's to the level that O'Connell is when it comes to designing an offense that is going to allow whatever quarterback he has in there to excel to the peak of his abilities. Sam Darnold is a guy that was considered a bust and obviously failed with New York, saw ghosts, went other places, showed some flashes in Carolina, showed some moments of some quality football in Carolina, but he's really shown out here in Minnesota. Not here in Minnesota. I'm not in Minnesota, but in Minnesota. And that is a massive testament to Kevin O'Connell. And yes, the weapons are immaculate. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, now TJ Hawkinson is healthy. They bring in Aaron Jones, who's been shaky with health and had some injuries, but when he's healthy, Aaron Jones is a very quarterback-friendly running back. He's a good blocker when you need him to stand in there and go make plays, blocking and pass protection. He's still a good running back in every sense of the word that it takes to be a running back, and he's a good, reliable receiving back. So those are a lot of things that you say, hey, I need help with a quarterback that maybe isn't elite. Aaron Jones is a terrific option, so bringing him in was huge. Kevin O'Connell has done an amazing job when you look at that culture and what they've been able to do as far as winning and really, really overperforming anyone's wildest expectations. I think everyone expected them to be kind of a distant third place in the division at this point, or maybe even last place. I think a lot of people felt like Chicago was going to be better this year. They made the flashy moves. They bring in all these receivers. They've got this young rookie quarterback. How can they fail? Well, Chicago had Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, and Minnesota, not the flash. Obviously, the Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the league, and Jordan Addison's terrific. But they didn't have all this noise in the offseason about how they're destined to succeed. And then they lose their rookie quarterback to a year-ending knee surgery that he's got to do. And Darnold's like, oh, everyone kind of thought, okay, J.J. McCarthy will take over probably around like week 9, week 10. Sam Darnold's going to start. No, Sam Darnold's still playing productive football. He leads a comeback against the Arizona Cardinals, and this is a completely different story than we all expected. Testament to Kevin O'Connell for doing that.
Absolutely. Was that your pick as well?
He's my number 2. Yeah, he's my number 2.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah.
And I know we just spent like 10 minutes talking about O'Connell, but I honestly think that as much as I love MCDC and I have him at 1, O'Connell's a guy that he deserves to be talked about for a chunk of time. He's done a fantastic job.
He really has, and like I was talking about, being unselfish is one of the best things that you can do as a coach, and allowing
it's pivotal.
Your other guys and everything. But let me get to my other guy. Homer for you, Matt LaFleur.
Hell yeah.
I have him on this list for sure. I think for me, I realized a pretty distinct difference between, not to bring someone that's kind of irrelevant to this at the moment in and discourage them, but Mike McDaniel versus Matt LaFleur. Mike McDaniel has Tua go down for multiple weeks with a concussion. Matt LaFleur has Jordan Love go down a few weeks with was it the ankle or?
Yeah, ankle sprain. He had a ankle sprain. Yeah.
Ankle sprain goes down.
And then he hurt his groin against Jacksonville, and Malik Willis had to come in to finish that game.
Right. He's dealt with some injuries there for sure. They didn't miss a beat.
Nope.
With Jordan Love out. They
Undefeated.
didn't miss a beat at all. They weren't one of the exact. They may have even played better football with Jordan Love. Maybe got to get him out of the building. Arguable for sure.
No.
No, I love.
Not getting him out of the building.
I love Jordan Love. I think he's great, but that's more than anything. It's a testament to Matt LaFleur. And when you watch those games, he has other pieces to work with on the offense. But one of the best things he did is he didn't just run basic stuff with Malik Willis, who is an underdeveloped, underexperienced quarterback that lacking some of the mental ability and mental traits of a quarterback and everything, the general accuracy. He didn't just run the basic stuff. He actually almost went to the other end of running pretty weird and strange stuff that defenses hasn't really seen, but doing that through the run game. So he's an incredibly adaptable coach, and another one of those coaches that's quarterback friendly. The offense that he has going in Green Bay is fantastic, in my opinion. The defense, this is not as much on him. I know he's not the defensive guy. That's Joe Barry, and
no, Joe Barry's out of there. Joe Barry's
He's
out
out
of
of
there.
there.
We fired him.
He,
We canned his ass. Get him out of here. No, it's Jeff Halfley now.
oh yeah. Either way, the defense was a little bit disappointing to start the year. I thought mainly with the pass rushers because the
Okay, yeah,
defense
especially
around
against Philly.
the at this point now the Packers have an underrated defense. I'd say it's taken a little bit for Sean Gary and Lucas Van Ness and Devontae Wyatt. Or is he on the Eagles now?
No, Devontae Wyatt's there. Yeah. And
Devontae, it's taken a bit for them to get going.
Kenny Clark.
But at this point now, the entirety of this defense is playing really well. So I just think Matt LaFleur is an awesome coach, and he's proven that in a lot of different steps of his NFL career as a head coach.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He's been fantastic. I think if the Packers somehow win the NFC North, I think LaFleur needs to be the coach of the year. If they somehow win the NFC North, I just don't think they're going to win the NFC North. I think they'll crawl their way into second in the NFC North, and I think they'll get close. But there's just no way Detroit drops enough games. I have Green Bay winning against Detroit this week, and that'll put them within a game. But I don't think Detroit drops enough for them to be caught. And especially with the costly loss to Minnesota, Detroit's going to have the advantage in divisional record. So Detroit would have to drop probably 2 more after they lose to the Packers, if they lose to the Packers. So they'd have to drop probably 3 out of their last 5 in order for Green Bay to win the division. I don't see that happening. And like that, they could drop 2 if they lose to Buffalo, but that's about it. But enough.
I think they beat Buffalo anyways.
Honestly, like Detroit has been considered the best team in football since they lost to Tampa. Ever since, like every game after that game. And Philly is right there with them. But I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's no guarantee that Buffalo wins. Even with how red hot they are, they're playing at such a high level. Both those teams are. That's going to be an awesome, awesome game. So I'm pumped to watch that in a week. But for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and put Matt LaFleur, I have at 4. I've got Jim Harbaugh at 3. We talked about earlier.
Okay.
We talked about earlier with, and I think, again, like I said with Matt LaFleur, if he wins the NFC North, he should be coach of the year. I think if the Chargers are able to catch the Chiefs in the AFC West, they're not that far behind. If they do manage to catch the Chiefs, because the Chiefs hit a little bit of a skid, I think Jim Harbaugh has a very, very strong case for being coach of the year. And when you look at what he's done to this culture, what he's done to just the structure of the team and the efficiency of the team, the attitude of the team, the way they've been able to execute, it's on a whole nother level. And we talked about when we brought up, who did we bring up earlier that made us bring up, we were talking about someone that made us bring up the Chargers earlier. But whoever it was, we were talking about how the Chargers, we kind of expected them to be, Ladd McConkey. You brought up Ladd McConkey, and we've talked about the Chargers briefly. But we were expecting them to be a team probably, well, I don't know what you would say, but probably somewhere around 7-10, 8-9. You know, a team that, they're showing Jim Harbaugh football. They've got the passion, they've got the energy, they've got the aggression, but they're just not quite there. That has not been the case at all. They've already got as many wins as we kind of expected them to have for the whole year. And they're in a spot where they could win the AFC West. And if you would have told me that the Chiefs were going to go and have 1 loss through 12 weeks, through 13 weeks of the season, and the Chargers were going to be still in contention. Oh, wait, did the Chiefs clinch the AFC West? No, they clinched the playoffs. They didn't clinch the AFC West.
Yeah, they're clinched through the playoffs, but they're
not the division. That's right. Okay, because I got confused because I remembered them clinching something. It was the playoffs. So yeah, to be in a spot where they can win the AFC West, and to tell me that the Chiefs only have 1 loss at the same time this far into the season, I go, damn, Harbaugh, what a job. What a job. Yeah. So if they're able to actually pull it off and win the division, it's going to take them beating the Chiefs, obviously, when they play again, which I believe is this week. They're going to need to get that done. But to be in that spot is a testament to how phenomenal of a job Jim Harbaugh has done.
Yeah, 100%. I think the thing is also with the other coaches we just talked about, with the Vikings and the Packers and the Lions, last year those teams were already good. They're obviously, taking a step up because of the coaching that they have. And, with the Vikings, they were dealing with injuries. That's why they weren't as good. But that was still a good football team. Yeah. The other two were in the playoffs. The Chargers stunk. Like, they stunk the place up. They obviously had pieces and really good players and everything.
That's Brandon Staley football.
That's Brandon Staley football right there. And we're talking about someone that's able to come in to a new program and flip the script a little bit. Now, what you were saying about them being able to win the division, I do see that as possible, especially when you consider that the Chiefs have been winning all their games by like 3 to 4 points last second. Panthers taking it to them until the Chiefs come out with a field goal to win the game. But other than that, I mean, that is viable. I would say that the Chargers, while they did surprise us with being that next step up from 6 or 7 wins or whatever, I don't know if they're not there yet with the Bills and with the. I mean, it was a close enough game with the Ravens, but teams like that and the Lions, they're not quite there yet, and that's fine. Those are really good teams, and they're coming off of a really bad year last season. So they're in the perfect spot right now, absolutely. And I do think there's a very strong case for Harbaugh to get that Coach of the Year award. The only issue is there's so many good candidates, but we'll just have to see how this all unfolds by the end of the season.
Yeah, there's like 7 guys you could throw in there, and I wrote down 5. I don't know how many you wrote down, but like there's so many. There are so many.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
this is going to be a really, really hard award to give out this year for the AP. Now, I'm sure it'll be easier at the end of the year. Some of these guys are going to eliminate themselves. But right now, just looking at all the possibilities that are still wide open, much more than we could have expected at this point in the season, it's really impressive. And it's a testament to, honestly, the quality of coaching in the NFL today is better than it was a year ago in a big way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, totally.
testament to them. I'm going to go ahead. We already talked about Matt LaFleur. Did you say your third or fourth guy?
My list is Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, Dan Campbell.
Gotcha. That's all for you?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and throw in one more. Dan Quinn. They've been on a slide the last 4 games. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. And Dan Quinn was a front runner when they were red hot, when they were 7-2. He was the front runner. He's still the odds-on favorite. I don't think he should be the odds-on favorite, but he's absolutely someone that should be talked about. I think Mike Tomlin really lost his case when they lost that trap game to Cleveland. They can battle their way back into it, and he can battle his name back into it, but Mike Tomlin really hurt his case with that loss, but he is still in the conversation. So again, like I said, so many great names. And Andy Reid's always going to be in the conversation because he's fantastic. And when we talked about, and just despite the fact that they've had so many injuries and their tackles are terrible, as good as their left guard, center, right guard combination is, left tackle, right tackle stink. Travis Kelce has shown his age this year, and Noah Gray has really been kind of the number 1 tight end this year, it feels like, especially when it comes to catching touchdowns. And they lose Rashee Rice. They lose Hollywood Brown, who was supposed to be maybe even their wide receiver 1 when they bring him in, and then they end up losing him for the whole year, and they don't even get to play with him at all. And they lose Pacheco to IR for a good chunk of time. He's back now. They have to go out and bring back Kareem Hunt, who hadn't been there since like week 11 of his rookie year when they cut him for the whole kicking incident. But really, really impressive what Andy Reid has been able to do with that team. So I think he's someone that needs to be in the conversation. And just really, really impressive what they've done. But that's all I've got for coaches. I didn't want to talk too long about Dan Quinn. But
Yeah. Well, with Andy Reid and Mahomes really quickly, one thing I've said about Mahomes in the past that I think is very similar for Andy Reid, Mahomes isn't the best at every little thing specifically, like his deep ball and his arm strength. Or it's obviously he's a very talented, really good player. He's not the best at everything. His best trait is that he's mastered winning, the same way Andy Reid has. They both mastered the ability to win football games. You know who else had that trait? Tom Brady. Tom Brady wasn't the best at everything when it came to, traits and everything. He mastered winning. So that's something just something I like saying about Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
And what's so frustrating as someone that isn't a Chiefs fan watching the Chiefs is if the defense, no matter how messy it is offensively, if the defense manages to keep it a 1-score game late in the fourth quarter, which they typically do because Steve Spagnuolo is fantastic, Chris Jones is amazing, Trent McDuffie's been terrific since he got there. His rookie year was last year. And since their defense has gotten better, obviously early on the defense stunk, and Mahomes had to really carry the load offensively, and they had to keep pace by scoring a lot. But
Yeah.
since their offense has declined, even when it's ugly, even when their offense doesn't play well, if the defense manages to keep it a one-score game on the final drive, and Mahomes has an opportunity to really affect the game on that final drive, which is almost always the case, they score and they either tie it or they win the game every
Yep.
single time, it seems. Like, no matter what, no matter, Mahomes may have played the worst game of his life and he was just terrible, but the defense played just well enough. And now, okay, I know you stunk today, but there's one drive left and you got to go make it happen. He always does, no matter what.
Always does.
No matter the circumstances. I mean, you look at his first Super Bowl against the 49ers. He played mediocre at best football for 3.5 quarters. And they're able to keep pace. And all of a sudden, boom. Now they get away with a holding. They get away with a holding, whatever, on that 3rd and 15 with Nick Bosa. But what does he do? He drops in a seed to Tyreek Hill deep down the field on an awesome play design on that jet chip loss, that cover 3 beater. And you get that post corner with the dig right underneath it to pull in the cover 3 corner away. Awesome play design right for that situation. And you see him just drop it in there. And what do? They go score, they get a stop, they score, they get a stop, and they score again to make it an 11-point victory in a game that they were losing by 10. It happens time and time again. The only time you don't see it happen is when Tampa put them away. Tampa's pass rush got to them early. They couldn't run the ball. Tampa put it away. Philadelphia, they keep pace. Mahomes goes and gets it done. Time and time again. Can't stop him if it's close. And then he does it to the Niners again last year. It's just automatic. The only time I haven't seen him do it was against the Bengals when the Bengals went to the playoffs. When the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. He threw an interception in overtime, and it's the only time in overtime that Patrick Mahomes has had the ball and not scored in his entire career. And that's a testament to their greatness and to how automatic they are. Like, it's so frustrating.
It's so frustrating, but it's undeniable, right? That's Chiefs football. That's Patrick Mahomes football.
Yeah. And he's not an MVP candidate this year because his stats stink, but it feels
But
like
people are saying he's having a terrible year and he's actually a bad quarterback, blah blah blah, just haters or whatever. But you got to keep in mind, first of all, the most important thing, they're winning. The other thing is, like you mentioned earlier, when talking about Andy Reid, Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice going out for the rest of the season, and Travis Kelce not playing well. He's playing with a very mediocre, below average receiving core right now, and 2 tackles that are hurting him, both on the left and right side. So he's playing amazing football. I wouldn't put him as an MVP candidate. That's obviously not what we're talking about at the moment, but yeah. You ready to move on to that discussion?
yeah, let's do MVP right now. But I will say just one last thing is this is easily Mahomes' worst year of his career, and even when he like I said, he's not playing really that good of football. But every time he has to play good football, he ends up playing good football. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what affects the win-loss column, and that's what matters. So
exactly.
But let's jump into MVP. Do you want to start us off?
I can start us off because I you know what? It's perfect. We were just talking about this with Mahomes because my MVP is Josh Allen. And why do I mention Mahomes in that? Well, who is the one person that was able to beat Mahomes this season? Not only beat him, but in one of those moments we were just talking about. Someone like Mahomes has mastered the ability to win football games late. You keep it one possession and give him the opportunity. He will always take advantage of the opportunity. And the Chiefs and the Bills played earlier this season. The exact opposite happened. Josh Allen was the one that took over and had that huge run on fourth and one or whatever.
Yep.
4th and 2, broke a bunch of tackles, just kept rumbling down the field. Now, that's not the only reason he's the MVP frontrunner. First of all, statistically, he's having an amazing year, but he's working with a lot less in comparison to other guys, similar to what I was talking about with Mahomes. But it's not even something I would necessarily say is fully working for him in the MVP race. I think it's just more indicative of what's really good for a player like Josh Allen. It's having a bunch of different weapons. It's having a bunch of, maybe not having Stephon Diggs caliber kind of weapon anymore, but that's fine because he's got 6 or 7 other guys he wants to throw the ball to and spread it around.
Somebody's going to win.
Somebody's going to win. And just as mental processing goes, Josh Allen is having one of the best years he's ever had in terms of that. He's still probably, other than Lamar, I'd say he's the most athletic quarterback in the league. You can argue Anthony Richardson in there, but the thing Josh Allen has over them in terms of athleticism is that bigger bulkiness about him that not only will he truck you, but he's less injury prone. And that's something I'm really excited to see is later in the season who's going to be able to keep up with him in terms of that. And his arm still is like a shotgun. He can sling it anywhere on the field, and that's something else he's learned over the years. He learned a few years ago, but now we see it at the highest level with him. He doesn't always need to throw it on a rope, throw it as hard as he can everywhere. His touch balls have looked amazing. The dump off balls, just putting it over a defensive end's hands when they're jumping up trying to get it, and he's trying to dump it off in the flats. That's gotten a lot prettier. And just like I was saying, the mental processing has been fantastic from him. This scheme that they have going is really, really working. The idea, how the philosophy they have, how they want to play offensive football, it's working incredibly well. So Josh Allen is he's my MVP front runner for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were to ask me to predict who I think is going to win the MVP, I would say Josh Allen. I think if you put this year in a vacuum, Lamar Jackson's the MVP. I still feel that way. I think his stats, you just can't argue with them. And I think they're kind of in a more similar situation than they were last year, in that last year it felt like, oh, Stephon Diggs fell off back half of the year, and he wasn't really the same player he was. And they didn't really have a running game until Joe Brady took over as the offensive coordinator in the back half of the year. But it was the Josh Allen show every single week. And yeah, he turned the ball over a lot, but the only way they were going to win was if he played lights out. And if he played any less than lights out, they weren't going to win the football game, because they needed him to play like, not just like outscore the other team, but just to be able to move the chains on a down to down basis. The only way that was going to happen was for him to play lights out football. And that was because of not just the supporting cast around him, but the structure of the offense. And Joe Brady's done an amazing job taking some of the pressure off of him and allowing him to excel in a situation where it's not, hey, you have to be Superman every single time you say hike. So that's been awesome. And for that reason, I think because those two situations are more similar, obviously Derrick Henry's an Offensive Player of the Year candidate, and the Bills don't have an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. But in terms of both of their abilities to lean on the ground game, I think that evens out kind of the who needs who more, and it's just who's playing better. And in my opinion, Lamar Jackson's playing the best football of his career and deserves the MVP this year. But there's also kind of, to some degree, a little bit of a balancing act going on towards like Lamar Jackson won an MVP. That was a little bit of it was a down year for play in general. And no one was a great MVP candidate last year. So not to say that Josh Allen was running away from it, but I always felt Josh Allen should have won it, or maybe even Dak Prescott. But really, Josh Allen, I felt, should have won it. But not to rehash on last year. I have a whole video where I talk about that for at least half the video. So we're not going to do that again today. But to me, Lamar Jackson, I talked about him when I said he was an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. What he does to defenses and how he's played this year is nothing short of incredible. And the fact that his defense has been as awful as it's been in the second half of games because they give up so much through the air, and he's being asked to outscore time and time again the opposition in really just an obscene way, and he has to go out there and play perfect. And now Justin Tucker is sliding, so you don't even have a kicker to lean on. I mean, Justin Tucker cost them 7 points in their loss against the Eagles. Now, you can't just go plug the points on the scoreboard and go, oh, Eagles points, Ravens points +7, Ravens win. Like, you can't do that because obviously the Eagles' strategy is different if Justin Tucker makes those kicks. But the point being, Ravens do score more points than what the Eagles did score if those points are on the board. And that says, hey, Lamar Jackson's got to play elite football every single week. And if they stall out on offense, there's not even a promise that they're going to make the kick. And there just seems to be so much more against the Ravens this year. They've won so many games by the skin of their teeth, and that's a testament to how amazing Lamar's played. He throws a dart into the back of the end zone against the Chiefs in week 1, and Isaiah Likely's foot is out by a heel. And if it's in, they probably go for 2, and there's a 50-50 shot at worst that they win that game. So, I mean, we're talking about a team that could be winning their division with a few things going their way early, and obviously they could have a much worse record with a few things going against them in those Bengals games. But point being, Lamar has been unbelievable, and he deserves a ton of respect. Him and Lamar, or him and Josh, are the two front runners. I'm good with either. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the reasons I'm not fighting for Lamar to get it this year is because a little bit of what you were saying last year felt a little bit odd. Not that it was a crazy snub from other people, but it does feel a little bit weird that one of his MVPs is, what was it, like 23 touchdowns or
24
something?
touchdowns,
Like,
I think like 12 interceptions.
yeah, there's a little bit of a blemish on that. So to me, it was a little bit like maybe he is having an MVP season this year. Now, obviously, this isn't how the NFL looks at it, and this isn't how it should be looked at necessarily. But just me personally and how I think about it, I'm like, as a Ravens fan, I'll be okay if he doesn't win it this year, if he fully deserves it, because last year was strange. But regardless, yeah, Lamar has been amazing. I think some of the issues I do have with him getting it this season is I would have liked to see him step up in some of those big moments where we did miss a kick, but we know that at this point in the season, and some of the decision making, because I am watching more games than the average person of the Ravens play, some of the decision making, this isn't even on Lamar as much, this is play calling stuff. There's a huge dependency for us to just start throwing it and throwing it deep when we don't really have a need to. Like against the Eagles, we were down. I don't know. I think it was maybe just down by the touchdown at that point. 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter or something, and we get the ball back on a drive after the Eagles score, and three straight balls is just slung up into the air to the ground, and it's incompletions, and we punt the ball back, and it's like we forget that we have Derrick Henry and that we can just pass it short.
Monkey gets pass happy for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to sit here and say anything negative on Lamar Jackson. I do think if he does win it, especially statistically and production wise, if he does win it, it's not going to be anything incredibly negative on him. He's playing really good football, especially when the Ravens are on as a whole, and he's one of the most bail you out quarterbacks in the league, especially against like the Bengals a few times they played. And there's these plays. Not every player does this the same way Lamar does, but there's a lot of plays where the defense can't do anything better. There's nothing more they can improve on. They dropped into their zone spots perfectly. Pass rush got home. Everyone's staying with the guy that they need to, and he just breaks out of the pass rush and keeps rolling around, breaking tackles, and just throws a dime to someone in a very tight window, and there's just basically nothing you can do about it. Based off what I just described and said, I bet he'd lead the leagues in those sort of plays. Not that that's super easy to count what that play is exactly, but yeah, Lamar Jackson is definitely someone on my list as well for that.
And when you look
MVP.
at what came to mind before you said throw a dart into tight coverage, what came to mind as far as everything looking pretty perfect and then just breaking contain, his scramble against the Bengals where he got down to like the 1 yard line where it's like, oh, he's sacked. Oh, he's not sacked. Oh, he's past the line of scrimmage. Oh, he picked up a first down. He might score. Okay, down at the 1. Are you kidding me? Like, unbelievable stuff. And when you talk about bailout plays, I think no one does that better than him and Josh Allen. Those are the two guys, and those are the two MVP favorites, and there's a reason for it. Like, those are the two guys that right now are in an offense where no one is better at making plays than those two guys. And Mahomes is obviously right there, and Mahomes at any moment is going to shock you, and he'll probably do it to anyone who's an AFC team fan. He might do it to one of your favorite teams in the playoffs, and if so, my condolences. So
I'm one of those teams.
Yes, like the completion to Valdez-Scantling last year. Like it's one of those things where obviously he didn't break the pocket or anything, but he drops a dime in the worst possible moment when you really need him to not drop a dime. Like those are, and when you think like three guys, you think Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and then Burrow. but Burrow's team is out of it, and Mahomes hasn't had the production. So this year, it's down to Lamar and Allen, and I can't think of two guys that are better at extending plays. And honestly, this year, better from the pocket. Like outside of Burrow, Lamar has been fantastic from the pocket, by far his best year from the pocket. And Allen has been fantastic from the pocket. I think those are the two front runners, and they deserve it. But I will say at number 3, and this is a guy that if he continues to do what he's doing, Saquon Barkley is someone that should be talked about. That he's been unbelievable.
Yeah, totally. I talked a little bit about Saquon earlier. I have a third candidate too, and it's going to sound like a joke, and it kind of is, but it's also a little bit of a discussion. I think Chris Boswell needs to be in this discussion a bit too for MVP.
It's funny, but it's not ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. He's winning them a lot of games, and if they make it a deep run into the playoffs, how are you gonna like argue against it? Like they just get to the 50-yard line every drive,
and then it's like 10 more yards, and we can get into field goal range. 3 points,
basically, yeah. Just and that's how they've been playing football. So it's obvious it's a little bit fun. I doubt it happens. I mean, the chance of it are so small. But
the Kickers won MVP before.
It was it was like 79 or something.
I think it was like early 80s. I want to say it was a strike season. It was early 80s. I think 82.
82. Yep. Nice.
I said it right before you said it. I'm so pumped right now. And I was Googling it, but I didn't have the year pulled up. So I am taking credit for my trivia knowledge here.
I trust you. I mean, yeah. But if any kicker should win it, it's Chris Boswell, man.
I agree. And I think that guy was 15 out of 16 kicking when he won MVP. I want to say he was 15 out of 16. So, but Boswell's been north of great this year. Like, I don't know that great even describes how good he's been. If he was good, and there were not really any complaints about him, the Steelers would probably have 2 less wins if he was just good. Like, he's the leading scorer in the NFL. He's been nothing short of incredible all year long. He's bailed them out of situation after situation. I mean, he's had 2 games where he's made, 6 field goals, I think? I think he's had 2 games where he's made 6 field goals.
He's had multiple games where the Steelers scored more than probably 15, 16 points, and he was all of them.
I think he's had 2 18-point games.
Yeah.
It's like, and they won both those games where it was like, if you miss one field goal, they lose. Like against the Ravens.
He is their offense. Well, now we've seen the Steelers. They've provided a lot more.
No, they played the Bengals. They played the Bengals. It's everyone has an offense against the Bengals.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very misleading.
Aside from that, I do think the Steelers have a little bit more going on offensively with Russ and George Pickens.
I do too.
Connection.
Russ has unlocked George Pickens.
Right, but a lot of the game plan that they have on offense is to get to that field goal target line and get those 3 points and play really good defense.
And Russ does a better job of getting them to that spot than Fields did. No, Fields has exceeded my expectations, and I actually have a lot of optimism for him going forward. And I did a video a couple weeks ago about the difference between Fields and Russ and what Russ does really well. But in short, Russ gets the ball out faster. He processes information quicker. He's more accurate. And
that moon ball.
That moon ball is key. And that's what's unlocked those outside receivers is you give them a chance. They're going to be better at playing the ball than the corner they're going up against. So put that ball high to the outside and just let them go get it. And
especially
no one does it better than him.
I think George Pickens, for that particular thing we're talking about, I don't know if anyone in the league actually does it better than him.
If there is, there's very few. Maybe Mike Evans. Maybe
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown has to be in that conversation.
I wouldn't say Mike Evans. Not anymore. I'd put
maybe
Pickens
not anymore.
Over him. I get what you're saying. I'm not disrespecting Mike Evans. It's just Pickens is that high of a level, and I don't really. I'm not gonna say CD. I'm not gonna say maybe Jamar Chase. But he's got a little bit more of the speed complex about it. But either way, yeah.
If Pickens was more likable, I would like him, but I can't stand him because he's such an ass. I like
Yeah.
him. What he did at the end of that Browns game where he's fighting a corner during the Hail Mary is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. The only thing that's worse than that is the Bears corner yelling at fans during the Hail Mary that they lose.
Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah, Tyreek Stevenson, exactly. Like that's the only thing I can think of in that situation that I've seen worse this year than what Pickens was doing. Why are we fighting a Browns corner when the ball is in the air for the final play of the game? Like the game's not over until the clock has 3 zeros on it. Why don't you go up there and at least try to go catch the ball that's about to be in the end zone? I don't understand. Makes no sense.
Hey, everyone knows Steelers receivers are crash outs. We all know it. They have a long lineage of it, going from AB, Juju, Claypool, and now Pickens.
And AB and Pickens is the worst in Pittsburgh. AB was kind of under wraps when he was in Pittsburgh. Obviously, AB's got the all-time crash out in Tampa in that Jets game where he just leaves. But in Pittsburgh, Pickens has been the worst of it. That dude's had CTE for like 4 years now. I don't know what's going on with him.
He self-admitted it too.
Oh, did he say he had CTE?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, that's better than AB. AB still won't admit that he has CTE.
Yeah.
That was AB asked his buddy with an OnlyFans if he thought he had CTE. Le'Veon Bell. If Le'Veon Bell doesn't have CTE from football, he's got it from boxing. So.
Yeah. Does Le'Veon Bell have an OnlyFans?
Yeah. It's very funny.
I'm gonna have to like in a non-gay way look into it.
Dude, Ghetto Gronk posted on his story one time like messages from the OnlyFans of him being like, I worked hard on this, guys. And I was like, oh, this is my hero has fallen. Because dude, Le'Veon Bell highlights, it's like art. It's just art.
Yeah.
Football highlights.
I love he has amazing highlights.
So it's like almost like poetry in football form, like how patient he is. It's really, really impressive. And his fall off was so disappointing. Seeing him hold out for that contract and then be mediocre with the Jets and then retire. So disappointing. And he took less money with the Jets than what he would have gotten for the contract in Pittsburgh. It was all bad. All bad.
All bad. We've seen so many running backs play that same game and it just not work out.
Yeah. So unbelievably disappointing. Now running backs are back though. Running backs are back. Le'Veon Bell was the start of the decline of running backs, and then obviously Zeke immediately becoming washed 4 years into his career didn't help. But running backs are all the way back. Saquon, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones in Minnesota, although not to the same degree as those other guys I just mentioned. But like those guys moving around and then being hyper productive, and like the Packers would have 2 or 3 less wins probably without Josh Jacobs. Like that's
and as well as that, you see the teams that they came from struggling so much.
The Raiders stink. Now the Raiders would have stunk regardless probably, but they stink even more. The Giants' run game is gone, and that was really Daniel Jones' crutch. Like and not only that, but Daniel Jones, Saquon was a guy that he could trust to dump the ball off to, and he doesn't have that anymore either. I mean, the Giants beat the Packers last year when the Packers were making a playoff push, and they still managed to sneak in, but that was a loss that was really disheartening to handle after they went on that 3-game win streak, and then they lose to the Giants, and I go, oh, they're frauds. Never mind. I thought we had something cooking, and then, of course, they did have something cooking, but Saquon almost single-handedly beat them. And when the Packers lost in 2022 to the Giants in London, Saquon Barkley almost single-handedly beat them in that game as well. Like, Saquon had the costly fumble last year, and the Packers almost overcame Saquon because of that fumble. But other than that fumble, incredible. And then, let's lose our best player. I've already talked about this in another video, but Joe Schoen is the biggest moron of all time. Saying we're paying our quarterback $40 million, we're not doing that to hand it off to a $13 million running back. What are you talking about? What is that?
I'm not even a Giants fan at all. I have zero connection to them whatsoever.
Me neither.
But it pissed me off so much.
Yeah.
See how they've handled this
asinine.
whole thing.
Such an
we
asinine
should
thing to
say this
say.
for the video. We should say this for the other video.
Hey, this
This
has
is
been
a
a good
lot of
video.
what I was
We got done with the
planning to
MVP talks, but just to bring it all back to Saquon, and now Saquon's an MVP candidate. So,
yeah, absolutely.
there you go. And I think he's odds on third, right? Is he third in the odds as well? He's my third.
Let me check really quick.
I know Josh is first. I'm pretty sure Lamar is still second.
Yeah. Josh is first, Lamar. Patrick Mahomes is third.
That is insulting. That is insulting. This one has Saquon at 2.
I'm on DraftKings.
I don't even know what I'm on.
What it is.
I'm on The Athletic. Let's get out of there. Let's not do that.
Is Vegas probably a better? The Vegas one is probably more accurate. Josh and then Saquon is 2 for Vegas.
Yep, Saquon, Lamar, Jared Goff at 4. Patrick Mahomes at 5 is still laughable.
I might have said Jared Goff was first if he didn't have that 4 interception game, and
5, even worse, 5.
5. And if he replaced that with a big game, he would definitely be 1. If not, I would have at least talked about him.
Goff was 100%. Goff was someone that the MVP race was wider until Goff had that 5-pick game.
Yeah.
That was brutal, and it didn't end his MVP chances. If he plays great the rest of the year, he can still get it. And Lamar and Josh will obviously have to slow down, and Saquon will have to slow down. But throwing 5 picks and winning, honestly, I think does more against his argument than if he had thrown 5 picks and lost. Because if you had thrown 5 picks and lost, really you can go, he's valuable enough that he had a bad game and they lost. But no, he stunk and they still won. So clearly,
it is a benefit to Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year, though.
It is big time. So, and obviously, the players don't care about it to that degree. They just want to win the football game, and if it hurts their MVP odds, so be it. Winning football games is what matters. Winning Super Bowls is what matters. So that's the race that they should all be trying to win, and sometimes that means costing yourself an award. But no award is better than the Lombardi in that ring. So that's what they all should be striving for. But this is just a fun topic to kind of humor, and it's been able to get out. Besides some sidebars, which I am prone to have, we've gotten an hour and 48 minutes of talking out of this. So obviously a pretty big subject with a lot of meat on it. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly how long it would take, but that works out.
This is one where I'm gonna make my cuts, and I'm probably gonna upload this full thing as one video, and then section it by topic. So I'll probably upload MVP as its own thing, upload Offensive Player of the Year as its own thing, Defensive Player of the Year as its own thing, as well as having the full thing. Kind of like how Pat McAfee will have his full episode and then we'll have clips.
Oh, okay.
Kind of
so
like
you're okay, got it. So you're basically posting a podcast and then clips of the podcast that are going to be about 20 minutes each, kind of.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically what I think we're going to do here. So obviously this whole talk is going to be I was just going to say that. Yeah. So obviously this whole thing right here that we just had is going to get cut out of it, but yeah, the outro. With that, I think we have covered everything there is to talk about as far as NFL awards go. Leave a comment if you think we have missed anything. If there is anyone for any award that you think deserves it more than anyone we mentioned, do not hesitate to drop that in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to smash that subscribe button. Go check out Blue52 Football's YouTube channel. He makes awesome content over there. I know he had to get a MacBook, and now that he's got his MacBook, he's going to be cranking out content like crazy once again. He had a quick hiatus, but he is back. He told me about it earlier today. So he is back making content with his new MacBook. So props to him for getting his software right, getting his hardware right, so he can bring the best quality content that I'm sure he has ever brought to you guys. That's going to be coming very soon. He did a terrific job today. It was a blast having him on the show today. Always love doing collabs with guys that know what they're talking about, and he's able to bail me out today with some stuff that I wasn't too sharp on with some things, specifically talking about the Broncos. So awesome having you on, man. You've been terrific today. Thank you for coming on, and look forward to collabing with a video on your channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. This was awesome. I can't wait to do this again sometime, whether it's mine or yours. You can, I'll always be down to do something, man. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Go check out his channel, Blue52 Football. And sometimes it's hard to go find it, but it's Blue52 is one word. So don't put a space in between blue and 52. Blue52, one word. If you search it like that, space, football, the channel will come up. So go look him
If
up on
enough
there.
people, if enough people find and subscribe it, it won't be as difficult to find.
True. Yes. Go smash that subscribe button, and then future people can put blue space 52 and it'll still pop up. So get this man to blue space 52. Get this man to blue space 52 and do it as fast as possible. Go light this man's channel up. I appreciate you as always. Like I said, I appreciate all of you for watching. Thank you all so much. I appreciate all the support that you've given me on my channel, and I will see all of you in the next video. Peace.